So welcome to tonight's Dharma talk. The first Dharma talk I gave here was on the Four Noble Truths. Then we kind of honed it in for the second Dharma talk I gave, which was on the Eightfold Noble Path. The third Dharma talk I gave was about the distinctions between serenity and insight meditation. And last week I gave a talk on the 16 steps of mindfulness of breathing as an example of how serenity and insight can be co-joined in a particular practices. So this is merging together. So tonight I thought I'd go down the serenity pathway of, tonight's the last Dharma talk I'll be giving here. I'm going home to Lismore in a couple of days, so I'm finishing my retreat. And tonight I'd like to give a talk about the 5 jhana factors. And I want to give it so that it's practical and useful for everyone in whatever practice they're doing. However, to clarify what I mean by the 5 jhana factors, I first have to explain what's a jhana. And I might get a little bit technical, but bear with me, because I think it's useful to know what jhanas are. So jhana, the word jhana used to mean meditation, and right now, and then now through the tradition, it's come to represent states of consciousness, or altered states of consciousness that are highly refined and concentrated. Meditative concentration. And they're super concentration. So much so that you have altered states of consciousness, some very refined states of consciousness. And traditionally there are 8 jhanas. 4 of them are called material or rupa jhanas, and 4 of them are called immaterial or arupa jhanas. The immaterial differentiation is related to what we experience during the jhanas. With the material jhanas, with the rupa jhanas, there's a connection to the body. You can feel them in the body. And with the immaterial jhanas, there's no connection with the body. They're total mental experience. They're immaterial. So that's one distinction. And they progress from, it's hard to say coarse, but they progress to more and more refined states. So the first jhana, a feature of the first jhana is rapture or joy, and piti in Pali. This energetic bubbliness. The second jhana, the feature of the second jhana is sukha, or happiness. A feature of the third jhana is contentment. It actually says happiness and equanimity combined. So it's sometimes you could say that's contentment. And a feature of the fourth jhana is equanimity. So they're the 4 material jhanas, and you can experience them in your body. They represent some experiences happening in your body. So much so that there's one mindfulness of body sutta that talks about the first 4 jhanas as an example of mindfulness of body. So that's quite interesting. The first immaterial jhana, or the fifth jhana, is a feature of that is infinite spaciousness, like boundless spaciousness, vastness, this experience of vastness. The sixth jhana, a feature of this is that this experience of vastness kind of gets inverted, so we become consciousness. You have consciousness of vastness, so that the focus is on this spacious consciousness, this boundless consciousness, and you see that it's all arising in the mind. The seventh jhana, a feature is nothingness. I won't go into great explanations about that other than it's nothing. It's kind of it's nothing that we can describe. And the eighth jhana, which is the most refined jhana, is called, a feature of that is neither perception nor non-perception. And I won't go into explaining about that right now because it'll take up a whole couple of hours, I think. So, and I don't fully understand it. I've never really experienced that. So, anyway. So these 8 jhanas, they're the basic kind of framework for understanding the jhanas. And in the field, in the meditation field, there's great controversy and disagreement about how deep one has to go into a jhana to be called a jhana. How deep the concentration is. And there's various teachings on these jhanas. One way it's described, and I appreciate Lee Brasington describing it like this, it's been described as and it's actually, this description is repeated in a book by Shayla Catherine. It's been described as these 8 jhanas have all these features, but they're like ponds, or lakes, or deep water holes. And it varies on how deep you go. So the controversy is about how deep you need to go. And sometimes people talk about light jhanas, which are like having some experiences of these qualities. And sometimes people talk about, more refined and intense jhanas. So just to make that point, because you'll hear a lot of different teachings. So coming now to the 5 factors of jhanas. The 5 factors of jhanas are in the jhanas regardless of the depth, although some of the factors fall away depending on how the level of jhana you're at. So the first factor of jhana, and coming back again, I want to mention that the jhanas are the pinnacle of serenity practices. They're the highest you can go. They do not represent enlightenment. They do not represent awakening. And sometimes people get obsessed with attaining the jhanas, and they're wonderful to attain. They're very blissful and refined states of ordered consciousness. However, they don't represent awakening. The function of them is that our minds are so concentrated or so stable that we are able to penetrate into phenomena and see the reality of experience. Hence, they are a tool for awakening. They give muscle to insight. So that's the function of them. And it's useful to remember that, because it's easy to get lost in trying to attain the jhanas and forget the basic principle of we practice concentration, we settle our mind in order to have insight. So the first factor is called piti. It's not called piti, sorry. I'll take that back. The first factor of jhana is called vidika in Pali. Vidika means thinking, but in this case it means initial application. It's like putting your mind in an object. You put your mind in an object. It's like, if you're doing mindfulness of breathing, you're not thinking about your breakfast or, what you're going to do later. You're actually attending to your breathing. You're putting your attention on the breathing. So that's the first factor. And in the meditation I gave you earlier, I was inviting you to attend to the felt sense of peace, contentment and happiness. So you're putting your attention in that. You're placing your attention there. The second factor is called vichara in Pali. It refers to examining, and in this case it refers to sustained application. So we have initial application, you put your mind there, then you sustain it. And coming back to the first jhana factor, what we do in mindfulness is represented by the first factor, the first jhana factor. It's like with mindfulness practice, you'll hear the teacher say, put your mind into that experience, like put your mind, attention on the experience. Embrace the object, penetrate the object. So vichara, or sustained application, is like going into the object, you're staying with it. And this vitika, vichara, or initial application, sustained application, has been compared to like the ringing of a bell. The striking of the bell is compared to the initial application. The ringing of the bell is the sustained application. Another example here is a bird taking flight. The flapping of the wings is like initial application. The gliding through the air with the wings outstretched is sustained application. And I mean, I used to ride a surfboard. I don't know if I can anymore. But it's like, I've compared it to like paddling to catch the wave is like the initial application, but then when the wave picks you up, it's like the sustained application. So when you do that, this requires a lot of determination and effort. Maybe not so much, but just there is an effort involved in this. What happens then is piti arises, which is the third factor. The third factor, piti, refers to rapture or joy. And you can feel it in your body, you can experience it in your body. I mean, I experience it, there's various grades, At a very basic grade, it could be experienced as simply having a pleasant body. You know how when you relax and it's kind of pleasant? There's a little bit of piti arriving there. It goes from that right through to being immersed in total bliss. Now, the way I experience piti is I initially feel it like a bubbly energy coming up my body. And then when I notice it and it gets stronger, it gets like these waves of energy, and it starts to permeate my body. It's an energetic quality. And sometimes people, when they do various siddha yogas and practices, you might get kundalini experiences and so on. This is all piti. So piti is the third factor, and by this time, the amount of effort you need to put into it is kind of like you're on the wave and the wave's just taking you. It's like you still need to have that sustained application, but you're kind of on the wave, and you can sort of let go of your ego striving, and it's kind of taking you on by itself. So the fourth factor is sukha. Sukha refers to happiness, and sukha is more refined than this piti or this rapture and joy. It's a more subtle happiness. It's lighter, more refined, more subtle. And I experience it in my heart. This happiness. It's kind of like a lightness of being. It's really quite lovely. And the fifth factor is called ekagata. Ekagata, I think, yeah. And there's two versions of the way this final fifth factor is interpreted. Sometimes it's interpreted as laser-like concentration, like one-pointedness. And another way it's interpreted is as unification of mind. And I prefer the second interpretation because it's more like our dispersive energies, we're sitting down to meditate and we're thinking about dinner and we're thinking about, what that person said to us, and then we, have a pain in our body, and our kind of minds are going all over the place. They're kind of dispersed. I think it's been compared to like a fish flapping when it's taken in from the water, like flapping around. It's kind of, the mind's all over the place. What happens with unification of mind is that all our mental energies go in the same direction. They all give us this kind of, it's a kind of a composure and a coming together of all our mental energies. So our attention is stable and steady and focused but not, maybe not like laser point, but just kind of really powerful. So these jhana factors, coming back to those, and I'll only talk about the first 4 jhanas at the moment. What happens with the first jhana is that piti and, first jhana factor, the first jhana, initial application and sustained application is very strong. You have the other jhana factors, but they're not as strong. The second jhana, which is the feature is sukha or happiness, sukha is strong. It's stronger than joy. It's stronger than piti. So the piti starts to fall away and there's more sukha, there's more happiness. By the time you get to the third jhana, which is, the feature is contentment, the joy falls away and there's just sukha and the other factors. By the time you get to the fourth jhana, which is featured by equanimity, there's no joy, there's no happiness, there's just this kind of steadiness and unshakability of mind. And the predominant factor there is unification of attention. So I find understanding these jhana factors is very helpful. No matter what level of concentration you're aspiring to, you can, even though you may not be entering the jhanas in whatever level they're described, it's very useful to have the capacity to learn how to concentrate, to learn how to gather your attention. It's very useful to learn to work with the jhana factors because, like I said, no matter what level you're at, if you can understand these jhana factors, they can help you in daily life and help you in meditation extremely. And I got interested in these jhana factors and the jhanas because my level of concentration was terrible. I've been doing vipassana practice and I couldn't hardly sit still. And I've noticed that when I've started to use these jhana factors and aim towards concentrating my mind, I have a much better, I have more power and it's supercharged my insight practice. So thank you very much for listening. I hope my explanations of the jhana factors were clear, and I wish you well, and may we all have true peace, happiness and contentment. Thank you.